Welcome back, everyone. Oz here, and today I've got some r/am I the asshole for you all. As per usual, I'll be reading the post, giving you my thoughts and opinions, and I hope you do the same down in the comments below. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. Superb Raz Madaz 49. Am I the asshole for kicking my brother and his girlfriend out after they disrespected my house rules and constantly caused drama with my son's mother? Alright y'all, need some outside perspective because my family is making me feel like the bad guy. I, 30 male, moved into a new place a few months back. It's nothing fancy, but it's a good, stable spot for me and my 6-year-old son. Around that time, my younger brother Tyrell, 34 male, and his girlfriend Amber, 22 female, got evicted and asked if they could crash with me for a while. I didn't really want to, but they had nowhere else, and I figured it'd just be temporary. At first, it was fine, but after about a month, they started getting way too comfortable, ignoring house rules I set, like no random people over when I'm not home, no smoking in the house, and being respectful when my son is there. Instead, they had people in and out while I was at work, left the place trashed, blasted music while my son was sleeping, and I caught Amber smoking in the bathroom twice. The biggest issue, though, was how they disrespected my son's mother. Now, me and my baby moms aren't together, but we're cool. She picks up our son on weekends and sometimes drops him off at the house. Well, Amber took it upon herself to start making little slick comments whenever my son's mom came by. Petty, unnecessary stuff like, "Oh, you actually showed up this time," or "Didn't know you still cared." My son's mom kept it classy, but she told me it made her uncomfortable, and I agreed it was out of pocket. I confronted them about everything, and Tyrell tried to downplay it like she was just joking, and told me to stop being sensitive. That was the last straw for me. I gave them 30 days to find somewhere else. Of course, now I'm the bad guy. My mom's blowing up my phone saying family sticks together, and they just need guidance. Amber's been posting subliminals on Facebook about fake people who pretend to help you then turn their back. But I don't care. My house, my rules. I'm raising a son, and I'm not about to let two grown adults bring chaos into my home. So, Reddit, am I the asshole for kicking them out after they disrespected my house, my rules, and my son's mother? No. You are doing them a favor. You had some pretty fucking basic rules. They had no respect for you, your property, your son's mother, or any kind of rules that you established or put in place. Instead, they saw you as someone they could use, get away with a bunch of random shit, and believe that because you were family, that they could get away with that kind of stuff and you wouldn't do anything about it. They crossed the lines that you drew and you put the hammer down. It's on them for not being respectful of the lines in the sand that you had drawn. Honestly, when they do move out, I'd respond to the Facebook post and just let everyone know what actually happened. If they're going to be petty and play Schrodinger's douchebag with, "Oh, they're just joking, why are you so sensitive?" then play Schrodinger's reality check. Respond to them on Facebook of, "Yeah, can you believe that someone would, for free, live in someone's home, not respect any of their rules, and then feel disrespected when they were kicked out for not respecting said rules? Crazy, huh?" And then when they call you out about it, you just say, "Whoa, I wasn't talking about you, I was talking about someone else." If they want to play those kind of games, play it back, but do it after they move out so they can't, have any retribution of just fucking trashing your house further. Instead, play it nice for a little bit, and then once they're out, have some fun after you change your locks. Unable Key 5820. Am I the asshole for walking out of a house showing? My husband and I, 29 female, are in the process of looking for a house for our family. We looked at a couple of houses today with my mother-in-law, father-in-law, kids, and realtor, Bob. Bob was my in-laws' realtor for the house they currently live in, and they appear to be close. But my husband and I haven't met him before starting our house hunting process. He was recommended to us by my in-laws. At the first house, we looked at the mudroom first, but because it was so tiny, everyone went in except Bob and I. The two of us stayed back in the kitchen. I was looking at the countertops and Bob was leaning against the cabinets waiting for everyone else / letting everyone look at the mudroom space. While everyone else was in the mudroom, I asked our realtor if the house is the house we discussed that have 2 bedrooms downstairs and 2 bedrooms upstairs. Bob looked at me, rolled his eyes, sighed, and walked away. I was really taken aback, but honestly, he was giving me vibes that he didn't like me. based on previous experiences when looking at other houses. I brushed it off, and we all continued to look at the rest of the house. We looked at the basement, and my husband asked the same question I asked Bob in the kitchen. Bob excitedly told my husband about the bedrooms with details and encouraged him and my in-laws to look at it next. He looked at everyone, except for me. That's when I really got mad and I walked away from the group and went outside with my kids because they were getting antsy anyways. After the showing, my mother-in-law tells me that I was rude to walk away when Bob was talking to all of us. I told her what happened, but she continued to tell me it was rude and that Bob is a close friend of theirs. I later on told my husband about it, and he's furious that Bob would do that, and he also noticed a weird vibe from him towards me. I can't shake off what happened today and the words from my mother-in-law. Am I the asshole for walking away today? This may be important to the story, but it is my speculation that this is the cause for everything. I am black, and my husband-in-laws are white. We live in a predominantly white area in rural New York. There aren't a lot of us around here, and I get looks from white people all the time. Edit. Thank you everyone for your nice words and honestly validating my feelings. With his permission to post a brief of our very long and intense conversation from today, we will not be working with Bob anymore, which was kinda decided yesterday, and my husband will be having a conversation to my in-laws about not coming to the showings anymore. He will also be talking about another concerning issue about the other alarming fact that mother-in-law treats our kids differently, ignores our one child, biracial, and showers our other child, my stepchild, white. Let's hope it goes well. Crossing fingers. Thank you again. So for those of you who may not be aware, I am extremely pasty white, like moonburn white. So I don't have any qualifications to speak on whether or not OP was experiencing any kind of racial prejudice, but if they feel like that was a part of it, I'm going to believe it. But what I can speak on is the fact that if I was ever looking at a home with my partner, and we were going through and we were looking at areas, and they had asked the realtor a question and they blew them off, I'd walk out. Even if there wasn't the potential for a racial aspect being involved here, OP is 100% in the right for walking out, for the realtor just simply blowing them off. Because his job is quite literally to sell not just the husband, but also the wife on buying the home. And considering the fact that the home did in fact actually have the amenities that OP was looking for, there is no reason for him just to simply scoff and roll his eyes at OP for asking a very simple fucking question about whether or not the home actually has what they're looking for. Because buying a home is a pretty big deal. And buddy, you're getting a commission cap from that. Your main goal should be to do everything in your power to sell them on that home. And the fact that he just quite literally rolled his eyes and scoffed it, and the mother-in-law was so quick to defend him, I am very inclined to agree with OP about their initial feelings on it, especially with the additional information of how their biracial child is being treated by their mother-in-law. This very much feels like a company you keep scenario with the husband's parents. But final note, good on the husband for instantly, without any hesitation or let's hear both sides of it or I want to hear their side of it, for just jumping right to his wife's side and just, nope, Bob is getting the fuck out of here. Good on the husband for that. Agreeable Living 640. Am I the asshole for expecting tequila in the margaritas? My 35 male wife, 33 female, got invited to a party at her coworker's house. I reluctantly went because the only person I would know was my wife. This is a relatively new job for her and wanted to be able to meet and mingle with her coworkers outside of work. Her understanding of it all was we didn't need to bring anything but ourselves. We show up and seems like a lively party. Pool with a bar area, music playing, they had a margarita machine and a ton of food. My wife got to talking, so I excused myself to grab a drink. The margarita machine was calling my name, so I filled my cup and grabbed my wife a margarita. I went back to my wife, I started drinking, and realized that there wasn't any tequila in it. That's when I noticed no alcohol being around. The host was tending to the machine, and I asked if there was any tequila. She looks at me confused and then says, there is no tequila. I said, oh, I thought this was a party. She takes offense at that and says it is, just a dry one. I awkwardly left it at that. I poured out my drink and grabbed some water. Host asks if there was something wrong with it. I said I wasn't interested in drinking straight sugar. I walked back to my wife, kept to myself, and ate some of the food for a few hours we were there. It made it back to my wife that I was an asshole to the host, caused a minor argument between us. Was I, though? Yes, you were. A party was being hosted, you went to a margarita machine, you assumed it would have alcohol. When you found out it didn't have alcohol, you insulted the host by not just commenting, "Oh, I thought this was a party," when finding out that it was a dry party. Then on top of that, you poured the drink out that you made for yourself, and when the host asked, "Hey, is something wrong with that?" you commented that you weren't interested in drinking straight sugar. But if it had alcohol, I guess you would have been. After having a conversation about how you thought that this was going to be a party with alcohol. You kind of embarrassed your wife, dude, and now her coworkers probably think she's married to an alcoholic. Because apparently, you can't have fun without alcohol. Like, apparently your wife is dating a frat boy. Like, imagine if you were hosting a party, one of your wife's guests came over, they grabbed some of the food, took a bite of it, went, "Ugh, what the fuck is this?" Spit it on the trash can, and you said, "Is everything okay?" They said, "Oh, I just thought this was going to be a tasty food party, not whatever this is." Like, yeah, you'd think they were an asshole. Direct Divide 7272. Am I the asshole for demanding my unemployed roommate pay me back after seeing her buy a MacBook? So my, 34 female, roommate, 32 female, and I have been living together for 2 years now. We split rent 50-50, even though my room is slightly larger, but I cook more, so it evens out. She lost her job last month and asked if I could pay her share of the rent until she gets a new job. I said yes, since we're friends and times are hard. Fast forward to yesterday. I come home from work and see her unpacking a brand new MacBook, $2,000 plus, and some clothes. I asked her where she got the money to buy this when she doesn't have a job, and she became defensive and told me her parents sent her money for her birthday. I informed her that if she can afford luxury products, she should repay me the rent I paid immediately. She claimed the money from her parents is a gift exclusively for those products, and that I volunteered without any conditions. I reminded her that I'm not rich either, and I missed a weekend getaway with my friends in order to pay her rent. She began crying and told me that I'm being materialistic and do not understand her problem. I discovered this morning I received half the rent money in an envelope with a message stating she'd pay the other half when she can, but won't speak to me much anymore. I don't feel I'm being unfair in demanding my money when she's spending money on non-necessities, but perhaps I should have been more compassionate. Birthday money or not, she has responsibilities she has to abide by, one of those being her rent. You were on the hook for her half of the rent by the grace of it. She came into money, and rather than paying you for the rent money that you had spent back, she spent it on herself, while you forwent a weekend getaway with friends in order to cover her part of the rent, because times are tough and she lost her job. There are 2 comments that I do want to take a quick look at. First one from Training Dearest, saying, "You're the asshole. You agreed to the terms that she would pay you back when she had another job. While I agree that she's not making good spending decisions, it's not your place to look over her shoulder and change the terms of what you agreed to, just because you have an opinion about how she should be spending her money. It's reasonable to point out that she's making poor choices, that you fronted her this money. It's causing you hardship, and it's hurtful to you that she gets a chunk of money and doesn't even consider doing the right thing by you. But you don't have the right to make demands and bully her into anything outside of the original agreement." While I understand the sentiment this one, I'm also just going to hit back with the fact of, it's different if this was just like a couple $100 being loaned to someone and they'll pay you back eventually. This was rent. This is where you stay. This is your home. She prioritized material possessions over her living expenses. She also had the audacity to claim that OP was being materialistic for just simply wanting to make sure that rent was paid for after her roommate went and bought thousands of dollars worth of materialistic items. And in the process, not just putting herself at risk, but also her roommate. We also have no 100% guarantee if this was actually birthday money or if that was an off-the-cuff excuse to just simply get her roommate off her back. Clarita 46-2 comments, "I had a very similar situation. I was paying most of my partner's rent while he finished nursing school, and took it very seriously when he talked about being worried even to afford food. I have never had parental support and was very frugal and able to support us. Then he took credit card debt to buy himself a $2,000 laptop as a graduation present for himself, while he still wasn't paying rent. In my case, we went on a full break and he moved out. He apologized, returned the laptop immediately, and eventually, when I went back to school, he did more of the supporting of me, and trust was slowly regained over time. We've been together 8 years now and bring it up as our biggest fight, where we almost broke up. It's wild that someone can take the support so for granted that they can justify buying themselves luxury goods on the side. It shows such a lack of consideration for the actual sacrifice that you are making. It took us a long time and a lot of communication to rebuild. I can't even imagine if he'd try to justify the purchase, bursting into tears and saying, "I'm so unfair," like your roommate did. It sounds like some people are used to receiving support in those types of situations from their parents and are not properly aware of the seriousness of accepting that from others. I think your roommate simply wasn't mature enough in this situation. A final comment I want to read from Impossible Blanket. You're the asshole. You agree to cover her rent until she finds a job. If you can't do that or you're finding it hard to do that, it's fine, but you need to talk to her about it and not get mad that the first thing she does with money is buy stuff. Guess what? The laptop will help her apply for jobs, and the clothes will help her look nice at job interviews. Also, her parents gifting her a birthday present is not the same as her spending frivolously. Just because a person is poor doesn't mean that they shouldn't be allowed nice things. In what world do you live in, where clothing and internet access is non-essential? I just want to add, in what world do you need a $2,000 laptop to apply for job applications? I actually just looked right now, and I can buy a 2022 refurbished MacBook Air for $400. Like, I understand the idea that, like, hey, look, it's her birthday money, she should be able to spend it how it is. But in the end, her roommate made sacrifices while she was able to go and purchase a new MacBook, new clothing, all while leaving her roommate out to dry. So I don't think OP's the asshole for asking her roommate, hey, if you're able to afford these luxury goods, then you should probably be paying your rent. So I just kind of thought about this while, like, in the editing process of, can you imagine if OP's roommate tried using the excuse of, well, it's birthday money, so, like, it doesn't actually count towards their landlord? Like, hey, you said you'd have rent by this time, and, you know, you're out here buying a MacBook. What's going on with that? Oh, it's okay. It's birthday money, so it's different. That shit's not gonna fly. Conscious Can 687. Am I the asshole? Dogs left out at kid's birthday party and requested they be locked away. I, 34 male, have a son in first grade and got invited to a pool party. The kids invited to go to school together and or play youth sports in the same teams. When we got there, what I was told was a Malinois, or a Belgian Shepherd, came up to us and sniffed and pawed at us. I told it to get away, and it did. My son does not like dogs since an incident at the park. I told it to get away a few more times in the next few minutes as we said hi to people. I noticed another dog outside. We were not told by the dogs ahead of time, and my son didn't want to play with his friends as he was hesitant to be away from me. I'm friendly with the host parents, but we don't know each other outside of our kids' activities. I approached Mom, thanked her for the invitation, and complimented their house. I asked her to lock the dogs away and explain the situation with my son. She looked clearly annoyed at the request. She told me she doesn't react well to being locked away and asserted that they were friendly and safe. I reiterated my son was not okay with dogs and didn't want to be around them. She said with the house full like this, the dogs want to be a part of the party and they wouldn't be going anywhere. She was clearly not okay with my request and implied we wouldn't be invited in the future. She left to attend to something else and we decided to leave the party. My son seemed okay with that decision as he perked up when we were in the car. I got a text later from the host saying my request was inappropriate. Am I the asshole? Edit, the conversation was 2 minutes tops. It was not extended and we were at the house for maybe 10 minutes. Okay, so there is an incredibly mixed consensus on this one, but I'm still gonna give my general opinion. For me, I'd say it depends on the dog, it depends on the house. You are going to that dog's house, and every dog is different. Some dogs can handle being crated away while people around, other dogs cannot. In my opinion, I get the impression from OP of, it's my way, or we leave, with no attempt of finding any kind of middle ground. I also, definitely, don't agree with the host sending a text message berating OP after they had left. While in my opinion, OP did have the right to ask if they would remove the dog from the situation, him continuing to press the matter was rude. But he removed himself from the situation, which was the right call. But him receiving a text message afterwards from the host, berating him, not okay. So I'm putting kind of an everyone sucks here situation with the amount of fault varying depending on, how I'm feeling about the scenario. I do want to read some comments though, because there is a vast mix of opinions on this one. Allayed then last. You're the asshole, unfortunately. This is not your house and you are not in charge of the environment. To be clear, you are fully within your rights to request the dogs be closed off in a room. But the host says no. That's the end of your power over them. Setting boundaries with people means defining your response to their behavior, not controlling that behavior. When you said, my son can't be at a party with these dogs, and the host said, well, I'm not shutting away the dogs, then the reasonable response is to say, thanks for inviting us, but my son is upset, so we're going to have to leave. Let's see if we can arrange future meetings in a dog-free environment. User FTW DIY Jess comments, wow, I'm surprised by all the you're the assholes. I say not the asshole. I have young children, host parties at our home frequently, and always have our dog put away for the duration. He's friendly and sweet, but when there are a bunch of little kids running around, you just never know what could happen. On the flip side, if he was out and a parent asked me to put him away for the comfort of themselves or their child, I would do it without hesitation. Yes, it is my home, but you are my guest, and your comfort matters to me. She sounds like a crappy host to me, and I don't think your request was out of line at all. User Way Candid 5193 comments, you're the asshole. Might have been not the asshole, but you approached the host with only one solution in mind, and when she said no, you just continued to argue for that solution. That's what I'm saying. It's fine that you left with your son after that. No sense in keeping him in an environment that makes him scared or anxious when the whole thing is supposed to be fun. But you made no attempt to compromise with the host. Can someone distract the dogs so they don't approach my son? Is there some place my son can go away from the dogs when he gets overwhelmed? And then didn't accept her response. Your son wasn't the only guest, so if the other kids liked having the dogs around, it would be pretty unfair to insist they be locked away for your son. User Bay Area Pup Mom comments, I'm gonna disagree with the majority here and say not the asshole for making the request, as long as there was no expectation that the host was compelled to comply. Fear of dogs is a real thing, especially with some children, so it would have been kind for the host to have somehow restricted the dogs from wandering freely among the kids. We have a small dog, and when our kids were little, we would put him in a separate room just because I honestly didn't trust little kids to use gentle hands with him. So it was more for his protection as well, as not to risk any reaction on his part if a kid were to behave inappropriately or tease him. I also would put on the invitation that we have a dog, so that people had the expectation that there were dogs in the house. I do think the host was within her rights to decline OP's request to lock the dogs up. However, the follow-up text from the host was inappropriate and unnecessary. OP left with her son because he did not feel comfortable with the dogs there, and that was entirely on them. It was an appropriate way to handle the situation without drama, and the party continued without disruption. The host did not need to act offended that someone was not in love with her dogs, which is what it sounds like. So with those opinions read and just kind of a general consensus, where do you land with this? I feel I'm pretty confident with everyone sucks here, just because OP did press, especially with the I reiterated comment that they added, and I do think that the host had a kind of poor reaction to the situation. I think OP was in their right to ask for the dog to be put away, but they had to have the expectation that the request may not be fulfilled. Every dog is different, every household is different. It can certainly be argued whether or not the host was a good host or not, for sure, but I'd love to hear some of your opinions on this one. FitHunt2476. Am I the asshole for exposing my sister's fake cancer to our parents after she refused to come clean herself? I, 34 male, just found out that my sister, 31 female, who has been telling my whole family she has cancer for the last 8 months, has been lying. She shaved her head, said she was doing chemo, and had our parents move in to help her through treatment. I started to have doubt when, besides also staying out relatively late frequently, she would never let anyone attend appointments with her, and she clearly had way too much energy for someone going through aggressive chemotherapy. Last week, I ran into the office manager of my sister's oncologist at a coffee shop, small town. I casually mentioned my sister, and the office manager was confused. She had no idea who I was talking about. I did some digging through doctors and spoke to my sister about what I learned, and she broke down and spilled her guts. It turns out she fabricated the whole story because she was in over her head with debt and wasn't able to afford her apartment anymore. The cancer story got our parents to move in, and she could then stop paying her bills. I was furious and told her that she had 24 hours to tell our parents the truth, or I would. She asked me not to tell them because it would ruin her relationship with them. She did not tell them, so yesterday, I took everything to our parents. Our parents are heartbroken. My sister is acting like I had no right to out her, and she didn't even say this to our parents. She was just going to stage a miraculous recovery next month. She said I ruined her life, and that families should be trying to defend each other rather than expose each other. So, this post, there was a part of it that made me a little unsure of how real it was, and it was the comment about how she ran into the oncologist and also spoke to doctors, and they spoke openly about the patient status of someone. Because it gets complicated with HIPAA, where while they're not a patient of said doctor and there is no confidential medical information to reveal, there's still kind of a playing it on the safe side situation. Now, I do get some mixed answers when I Google it directly. I have some people saying that, no, a doctor cannot legally disclose whether or not someone is their patient. And I see other people saying that, while a doctor can say if someone is not their patient, normally they will not. So it's a bit of a mixed bag there. Even with this being a small town, I feel like a doctor would still want to keep themselves safe from any HIPAA violations coming their way. Now, perhaps OP skipped some details in order to keep their story within the character limit. But overall, this was a red flag that I wanted to address. That being said, the general context of the story is something still worth discussing, because when you're put into a position where you have a family member who is actively taking advantage of others, and then trying to use the guise of, oh, families should be defending each other, not exposing each other, in the process of OP exposing their sister, they would be defending their parents. Because in this situation, and many like this, the parents are making sacrifices under the belief that the sister is telling them the truth, that they do have this diagnosis, that they are struggling because of this diagnosis, when in reality the diagnosis doesn't actually exist, and they're utilizing this for sympathy points and to get aid on things that are no longer within their control, like their ability to pay rent. And in a situation like this, using the sister's logic, families should be defending each other. An OP sister was certainly taking advantage of her parents and their generosity and concern for their daughter's well-being. The general moral of this is that if you have a sibling or family member who's actively lying about a situation of theirs in order to get pity, and in addition get some form of financial gain or anything along those lines that would benefit them based upon the lie they've told, you're not in the wrong for exposing that lie. Yeah, it sucks for everyone involved, but it sucks because they've been used by someone who they tried to help. Hey, welcome to the outro. Don't forget this whole thing is basically brought to you by GamerSupps. If you like caffeine, then I can't recommend GamerSupps enough. Use code Oz at checkout to support the channel. And I do actually use this product. It's replaced all other sources of caffeine for me because I feel good. It doesn't have any of that extra stuff that a pre-workout blend might have. It's with a couple of the extra things to make it so you don't crash as hard. It's good. I like it. Personally, if you really want a good flavor, try the Soda Pressing Pear or even the Dragon Fruit Punch. Those two are my personal favorites right now.